Sports Hub STL is presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Welcome to the Randy Karraker Show. This is Matthew Rocchio in for Brooke Grimsley. It's the Randy Karraker Show featuring Brooke Grimsley with Matthew Rocchio here. We got a lot coming your way here on this edition of the program. As a matter of fact, we're going to talk a little Cardinal baseball. We're going to talk a little Battlehawks. We're going to talk college football. But we start this day with transactions because, well, we all love transactions, don't we? And we've wondered for some time whether or not St. Louis City SC would fire their coach, Olof Mellberg, in his first season. Less than half into his first season.
A third, almost exactly.
Yeah, and they did last night. They whacked him. He bit the dust as the head coach at St. Louis City SC. Did not have a great run. No, as the head coach at St. Louis City SC.
Certainly not. It was 11 straight games without a win. They won 2 games. Those were games 3 and 4 of his tenure. They started off great, 8 points in 4 games. Pretty good start. Didn't do anything too well after that, which is why we're sitting where we are. And again, even Diego and Lutz in the statement acknowledged that there were things not under his control, such as the injuries that were quite a lot. But at the same time, you know, the excuses for them got to be to the point where they were greater than the reasons, and you got to make a change. And I also think we're looking at a front office that's, you know, you just fired your second coach in under a year. Well, that's not nothing. That matters. It's been under 11 months, actually, almost to the day 11 months since you fired your Bradley Carnell. He's having success elsewhere. There wasn't only one hot seat inside of Energizer Park, is how I'll phrase it.
I would say that if you, in sports, and maybe in any line of work, but let's just look at sports specifically. You fire a coach on what, June 23rd last year?
I thought it was June 31st.
June 31st? Okay.
Or July 1st.
Basically, you fired a coach and said, we're going to do a global search for a new coach.
25,000. It was July 1st.
Okay, July 1st.
25,000 people in the database.
25,000. Global. You actually went to Sweden to hire a guy, right? You had 5 months to do a global search and find the perfect guy. And he lasted 15 games. That's not a coaching problem. That's a coach finding problem. That's a front office issue. And I've always thought this, even if a franchise, when the Arizona Cardinals fired Steve Wilkes, or when the disastrous Carolina Panthers made their moves and did their one and done coaching fires, that is disastrous. And that is, in my opinion, something where you have to take a really close look at your front office and determine, as an owner, whether or not the people you have in place are competent to do the job. In sports, when you fire a coach, you have plenty of time to hire a new one. And there should never be a scenario, unless you're a brand new general manager, where you fire a coach in his first year or right after his first year. And if you do that, that means that you didn't do your job well. That means that you didn't get a coach that meshes with the players, or you didn't get that coach the right players. And that is clearly a problem right now with SC.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And what jumps out to me is just, you know, only a 5-6 month difference between making this decision and having to fire him. And some of the quotes, I went back and looked at the intro presser, because we have already quotes from Lutz and Diego. We'll have more. I'm expecting an announcement for a press conference later this week to be hitting inboxes here any moment now. And obviously we'll let you know when that happens and those kind of things. But this is Lutz from when they hired him. He's a person who's down to earth, which is very hardworking. He's not a typical show pony, a guy who basically integrates very well into the community when it comes to personality, when it comes to playing style. Of course, that was the soccer profile, and it comes quite into place. If you look at his former teams, high intensity runs, sprints, work against the ball, really getting into very quick transition modes. That was the data which really stuck out in Olof Mellberg's coaching career, and that's the data we were looking for. Okay, so that's just part of his answer. Here was Lutz Pfannenstiel yesterday. We've analyzed the team's performance across a number of factors, including the need to execute a style of play that has led to the team's initial success and has been part of our DNA for 4 years. As a club, we have to remain certain standards and necessarily improve overall winning performance in our culture. So it's insane to me that apparently in January, he is the perfect fit for this club.
Mm-hmm.
And every piece of data we have shows you that the way he coaches his teams is the perfect fit for this club. And then the exact wording of the reason you terminate him is not executing, is the need to execute against a style of play. What happened? What exactly just happened in the last 5 months? I have no idea, but I would like that question to be answered.
Yeah, and I would have to think that, again, many of the same players, and not all of them played for Mellberg. Obviously, he didn't have the best player for his term here, Leuven, but they didn't play with a lot of energy. You mentioned the sprint, the intensity. It wasn't there under this manager, and maybe it's an inability to relate. This guy's international record before he got to City was not that great either. He had 65 wins. He had 33 draws, and he had 50 losses. So 65, 50, and what? And he wasn't that great.
And one of the reasons they talked about where he was is that he was having, for the size of those clubs and for those clubs' budgets relative to the leagues they were playing in, and the fact that a chunk of that is him getting back-to-back promotions with Brahmas Praskarna and things like that. For all they even admitted, like, he has not had big budgets. He has not had the most talent, but he has been able to keep teams above 500. He's been able to get teams promoted from bottom flights, and he's been able to keep teams high up, he's been able to keep teams safe in top flights despite not having big budgets. So there was a lot of things saying that, listen, the numbers might not be that impressive, but there are mitigating factors, which, to be 100% objective, that's a fair it's both kind of a fair criticism from you, but it's also a fair reasoning from them on why the numbers might not jump off the page. Getting promotions from lower leagues is impressive. Sustaining small clubs in top leagues is impressive in some of these countries, or at least laudable.
Okay,
maybe not impressive.
We'll get to the interim in a moment, but I think this is something that's very salient in St. Louis, Missouri, the capital of American soccer. When I was a youngin' back in 1980, we had an expansion indoor soccer team in the MISL called the St. Louis Steamers. Ain't no stopping us now. And they were loaded with St. Louis area players. They had a St. Louis coach, Pat McBride, and they won a lot. But those guys, Don Ebert, Steve Petcher, Ty Keogh, Jeff Cacciatore, those guys, they all had their fan clubs come to the games. It was St. Louis supporting St. Louis. And that's the reason I'm convinced that, and obviously winning doesn't hurt and the novelty didn't hurt, but that winter, the St. Louis Steamers had the second highest attendance in all winter sports in North America. The only team in a winter sport that had a higher attendance in North America was the Edmonton Oilers, higher than any team in the NBA, higher than any other team in the NHL, higher than any team in the MISL. And a lot of it had to do with St. Louis. Now, I get that you can't load up an MLS team with a bunch of St. Louisans, but what St. Louisan is there? I know this is going to sound terrible, but there is nobody that represents that front office right now, outside of Carolyn Kindle, that doesn't speak with an accent. And I think that's a thing in St. Louis. I really do. I think that makes a difference. I think that, but if you're going to have something that succeeds in St. Louis, Missouri, America, I think there has to be an American influence. We're the most provincial town in America. And
should we fight against that, though?
No.
We shouldn't fight against that? Isn't a global game like soccer a perfect thing to fight against that?
Do you want to succeed or not? That's the question.
I do want to succeed, and so that's my point would be that I don't want them when they do this coaching search.
Okay, I'm not talking about one. I'm talking about none. I'm talking about who in that front office doesn't speak with on the soccer side, doesn't speak with an accent that is not South St. Louis, that doesn't say farty far.
Do you consider the guy who runs the academy system part of the front office?
Well, Does he speak for the team very often? Do we see him?
I mean,
Do we hear him?
he's on the broadcast.
Okay, well then
Dale Schilly runs the academy system, is on the broadcast, and has literally been working in St. Louis soccer since the 1980s.
Then he should have more of a say in what's going on.
The academy is a very important part of this club.
Be a face of the franchise.
I mean, he's on the broadcast. Isn't that a pretty good run?
That would be for me like Larry Day, the farm director for the Cardinals, being their analyst.
I think that'd be a very good way to connect fans to a side of the in the future of the franchise.
Bring him out there for the press conferences.
That's fair. I talking to Dale's fantastic. I would love it if they use the fact that he is the color commentator of the games as more of a synergistic way to connect fans with the fan base. You're not wrong there.
Old timey soccer people here in town, they think it's a big deal. People that were around for the success of the Steamers.
But to your point, that's because of how provincial this city is. I'm not saying you're not wrong in any way. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying shouldn't we fight against that? And my secondary thing is, should connection to St. Louis, when you're putting in a 25,000 coach search, should connection to St. Louis, like how high up should that be on the priority list, in your opinion, beyond all the other things that go into finding a coach?
For the veteran soccer people in town that I've talked to, the people that have been around since the 70s. Yeah.
But is that a smart way to build a winning soccer team? Is that a smart way to build a winning sports franchise? Making decisions based on
people that have won before and know how to win? Absolutely.
Not won before and know how to win, but factoring in where they're from as part of those things. Because I'm not, of course you want to bring in guys who have won,
for a new team in town, for a fledgling team that's still finding its way. I think, having somebody that knows the lay of the land in St. Louis is a great thing. When the Los Angeles Rams came to St. Louis, what was one of the first things they did? They hired Bob Wallace, who had been here, worked for the football Cardinals, knew what he was doing. What do the Cardinals do when things are down? They've still, back in the day, they had their Joe Cunningham, they had their Marty Hendon, they had people, and right now, even still, there are people not as much on the baseball side, but on the business side that have roots in St. Louis. And they could have had that, by the way. Dan Flynn interviewed apparently for the president's job and didn't get it. He was the former president of U.S. Soccer. And apparently didn't have a great interview, but he would have been pretty good. But I think that they could do a better job, and not that they're doing a bad job, because look at that very first press conference they had. I think they could do a better job of connecting not necessarily to St. Louis, but to the St. Louis soccer fan, the people that have bought tickets to attend to soccer games in St. Louis for a long time. And by the way, I think that they would have been fine if they would have just hired John Hackworth as their head coach.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly has the mentality. I listen. It's not a surprising point, because I've heard a lot of people talk about the lack of, not just St. Louis people. I think to your point, there's people who are just bothered by there's not more of an American presence, and I understand that thought process. My opinion is, I just want to cut out any of that tertiary stuff and just get to, are you a good coach or not? And listen, you and Brooke talk about Drew Bannister all the time, and is he just flat out right now, where he is right now, an NHL level coach? It just doesn't appear like he is. And that's not a shot against him. Clearly, he's a good coach. Clearly, he knows the game. Clearly, he works his ass off. But he just might not be past that crest of the hill. The fact of the matter is, Olof Mellberg might be a very good coach for a certain level, but he might not just be past that hill. We might just be dealing with a coach who just doesn't have and there's nothing wrong with that. Doesn't mean he doesn't know what he's talking about. Doesn't mean his strategies were bad. It just means that sometimes you're not ready to make that huge jump yet. And and we can criticize them for not knowing it. We can criticize him for his decisions, but I think it's weird to jump to other conclusions about this decision making, in my opinion.
Well, number one, winning solves everything, and number two, like the very first thing we said is there's an issue with the front office in not hiring a coach and getting him the players to allow him to succeed at a higher level. But that being said, and you cover the team more than I do, but did you think he was a great salesperson for the franchise? Did you think Melberg
Olaf
was a great choice as somebody to go out and be a face of the franchise?
No, I don't. I think sometimes when you hire a coach that's quieter and more reserved, like he is, you're accepting that there's going to be some push pull in that factor, and other people are going to have to step up and do it. I think
unless you win like Belichick,
and then the stoic kind of works for you. But I think that's what I think that also. I think Lutz didn't have a problem because Lutz is very okay with speaking, and I like that Lutz talks because he's very honest, he's very blunt when he speaks, and so he was doing weekly radio hits and things like that to give a look into the team because Olaf wasn't going to give you that much. It was you were prying stuff out of him in the way you didn't have to with Bradley or John. And so I thought that he was a good spokesperson from a mentality aspect. I think he did say the right things, and I think he did believe those things. He talked about wanting high intensity players and things like that. He talked about those things, and I don't want to paint with a wide brush because overall, yes, the numbers you cannot. You look at PPDA, which is the best way to qualify pressing in soccer. They were the lowest in the league. They didn't control the ball. There's nothing that redeemable what he did. But if you watch every game, there were games where he tried to press, and he talked a lot in the press conferences about, well, we pressed in these moments and then we backed off in these moments. And I think part of that was mentality. Part of that was the players he had because everyone was injured. But to everything we've been saying here, it just sticks out to me of something. There was a disconnect.
Yeah.
You don't get the quotes from Lutz in January and then the quotes from Lutz yesterday, and you can't tell me there's not a disconnect because the other one too is them talking about because this is something that soccer people have been harping about, hiring a coach with no MLS experience. Lutz was asked about that in the introductory press conference. Is there any concern with having a coach that has no MLS experience? That's the question. No, not at all for me, because I think we have enough people on our staff which have a lot of MLS experience. It's not that we have a completely new coaching team with 5 or 6 guys who have never visited the United States before. I think there are lots of people who worked in this league for many, many years, even in double digits. Fast forward to yesterday, Diego Gigliani. We understood that it took time for Olaf to become acclimated for Major League Soccer and certainly acknowledge injuries made his job difficult, but we simply could not continue down this path. So what about finding him and finding a guy who has been in different situations and grown with different teams? And why couldn't he grow with you here? What was it about Major League Soccer that he couldn't compound? What was it about all the people on your staff that have apparently double digits worth of experience who they couldn't get certain things across from him that hampered your team? What happened that you failed him and therefore he failed you?
Clearly, somebody doesn't know what they're doing. Whether it was them or him, there wasn't a streamlined process to bring a coach in with the type of players that he needed to succeed with. And again, dealt with the injuries, but he wasn't able to make, and one of the things they talked about early on, how he makes young players better all the time on a consistent basis. And the players that they brought in to replace the injured guys weren't performing at a high level. And you've brought it up before, and fans have brought it up, and it bothers you when people say, hey, they've got one of the lowest, second lowest payroll in the league, right?
I don't think it's actually second lowest. It's hard to pin down exactly what the payroll is with the salary cap and everything. I think it's, if I had to guess, they're at the bottom of the middle third. So probably in the low teens.
Okay. So it just seems to me that they need to have, I don't know if it's a collaborative approach. They need to find somebody that fits their style. When Lutz hired Carnell, we knew what the style was going to be, and they utilized that style and had success in that first season. Now, adjustments were made to combat what Carnell was doing, and he didn't adjust back. But at some point, you need to get somebody. Lutz has a specific style that he wants to play, and he's got players that he wants to play that system. Now you have to get somebody to lead that system that you want to run with the players that you have.
Yeah, and there's some people who said they didn't acquire players that fit this system. And I disagree with that statement, because if we just go back to last transfer window and we look at all the players they've acquired since then, Marcel Hardo, Cedric Toyshirt, Simon Bescher, Giannis Horn, Conrad Vollum, Alfie Morales, and then the draft picks, Joey Zielinski and those guys. So like we look at all those players, and Alvin Morales is an old veteran that you brought in to be a depth guy to solidify a position that's been a little rickety. I think that's a solid move as a GM to make. Giannis Horn's been fantastic. Marcel Hartl's been great. Cedric Toyshirt had a great second season, but I think he was one of the guys that you can maybe pinpoint and saying has been the most misused under Melberg. So maybe that's one of maybe does he fit the system? Conrad Vollum fits the system great. And Simon Bescher fits the system great. So I'm a little just confused by that point by some people because I just don't see it that way. Speaking of not seeing it that way, the chat, yeah, I'm gonna have to check out on this one today. Be better, Randy. People.
Hey, here's the thing: if you don't, and I talk to soccer people, tell me if you don't think that St. Louis soccer fans that have been soccer fans for a long time and have spent a lot of money on this sport, if you don't think they care about the history of St. Louis soccer, then you aren't talking to the same people that I'm talking to, because I think they do. I think that St. Louis soccer people are very proud of the soccer heritage, and they would really appreciate having the style of soccer that they have played as kids and coached over the course of the years and watched over years. We've had a lot of prolific soccer players and soccer coaches out of St. Louis. And I'm telling you, and these are people my age that I talk to and older, I think they do care about the history of St. Louis soccer. And I think that they would like to have that recognized and that be kind of a voice of the soccer team that they're supportive of.
And I think that's completely fair. Listen, we have Adam Taylor in the chat who says, Al Trost is a soccer Hall of Famer, great STL ties, substitute teaches at Parkway. Make him the coach would be a great story. Here's my thing, though. It's like, this is why I don't like playing into this. Listen, I love that St. Louis takes so much pride in their soccer history. It's a beautiful thing. And we need to, as St. Louisans, celebrate the good things about our city and not always wallow in the crappy parts. I love that. But this comment is the problem. Al Trost has not managed beyond high school ever.
Oh, he was the coach of the Steamers.
Was he coach of the Steamers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless that's a different Al. Does he have a son? Is there Al Trost Jr.?
I just wasn't. I was just looking up his managerial career, and it didn't say all it had was him was coaching high school.
This was let's see.
Oh no, they hired him to replace Pat Bride, who had left the team. Trost continued coaching the Steamers during 81 and 82, where he took them to the MLS Championship Series, which had lost to Troust's old team, the New York Arrows. When the team began 82-83 with a record of 5-9, Troust was fired on January 4th, 1983. Yeah. So he got fired after coaching 2 years of indoor soccer, and he's been coaching high school since then. I'm sorry, but just because of your connection to St. Louis, that doesn't mean that that's not the kind of coach that should be getting considered. I'm sorry. That is some pie in the sky. And I'm not saying just I love coach. St. Louis kind of stuff. Right
I'm not saying just the coach. I'm just saying that I think, and I admit, I don't know an awful lot about soccer, but I do think that there are good soccer people that have come out of St. Louis that could serve a purpose for a professional team. No, that might not. I could be completely wrong. But that's just my impression. And again, we are provincial. We like our own. And a lot of people have said to me, there are a lot of good soccer people that have come out of St. Louis that would be good fits. I don't know, but that's their job, is to see if they can find that person, if they even care about that, if they care about St. Louis soccer as they advance their MLS team.
I think they do care about St. Louis soccer. Is Lutz from day one connecting the idea of the high pressing that he likes with the workman-like style that St. Louis always appreciates? Was that simply just a good base for you? Was that have they not built on that base enough?
I think when he was in town building the franchise and I talked to him, he said, I want to build a team that the fans appreciate, like the Blues. He went to Blues games. He likes the Blues. Huge Oscar Sundqvist fan. And he said, I want to build a hardworking team that plays a specific style that appeals to the St. Louis fan. And that first year, I thought they did it. I thought they did it under Carnell. And obviously, a lot of things have happened. Personnel has changed over the course of the years. But that's what he said he wanted to do. And I think they've kind of gotten away from that. Well, at least in terms of trying to score, or at least scoring. I shouldn't say trying to score. They were trying to score. But 11 goals, second fewest in MLS.
Yeah, and listen, the number, and that's the thing. It's you can't. I'm not criticizing the move. I don't think anyone's criticizing the move for the overall factors of it all. But this is something we haven't talked about yet. I also want to know, and this is going to be something I want to know in the press conference. Why does he run training? Why does he speak to the media and then he's fired 6 hours later? Because
that's the Mike Brown in Sacramento thing.
And we all and look how former coaches who had been under that organization talked about the ownership group after that move happened that way. I'll just say that it's a weird move, and the timeline is interesting because they fire. I guess saying fire would be incorrect. Essentially the offensive coordinator of their team, Valentic, who ran the team when Olof was suspended and who came with Olof, he left for personal reasons on Tuesday before training.
Mm-hmm.
Then Olof runs training, and then 5-6 hours later, it's announced that he's been fired. And so I just think that's a really weird move overall. What happened in between training and him getting let go? Why was he not? They have 4 trainings before an extremely important game.
Mm-hmm.
Every game matters. They have to play second in the MLS level soccer to essentially make the playoffs. And so every game matters. And yet you let the coach you're about to fire run one of your 4 training and video sessions before a very important game. That just seems like an odd move overall to me too.
Because once you lost to Colorado the other night and had one shot on goal, that's a decision that seemed like it was pretty easy to make, right? And you could have gotten started right with the new guy. I don't understand what the real third man is trying to say here. The credit cards that people use for their entertainment dollar are getting maxed out. You could look it up in seconds on the internet, Randy, but you won't. What?
He's just talking about recession indicators. I think.
Why is he talking about that here?
I think people early. I think I think people were talking about ticket prices earlier. We didn't really talk about ticket prices. I think real third man was kind of straw manning you into the argument for no apparent reason.
They're buying tickets. That's not an issue over at City Park or Energizer Park, is it? People are still going to games.
Yeah, but people are in the chat are complaining about how much the tickets tickets cost, and the other people are pointing out, supply and demand. That's why the tickets cost so much compared to what they are. Those kind of things. Craig Lewis says, what appeals to the STL fans is winning and not blowing games late. Yeah, that's an important factor. I think if you don't look at going down or going up 2-0 early against Sporting Kansas City and then drawing that game 2-2, you go up 2-1 against Minnesota United and you lose that game 3-2. Those are pretty rough little moments there. And it all contributes to him getting fired. Again, him getting relieved is not in a vacuum is not the issue here. It's when it happened, why it happened, how we got here, and how all of that happened so fast,
and how he got hired,
too. Because I guess in the moment I didn't think it was I wasn't that skeptical of the hiring in the moment, because you've seen coaches from smaller countries who have had success with small teams be able to extrapolate and build that success. He BP had the largest academy system in the world, and he took advantage of that. And so it seemed like with the ethos here, he was a perfect fit. And so everything about the fit in the moment made a lot of sense. And so I'm just trying to not work this out to just commenting on hindsight. That's why I'm so baffled about why it went so bad so fast, is because, to their points, all the numbers said this was a fit. And now I'm starting to wonder, one big question I haven't pulled out yet. Lutz talked about City 2.0 and about how they need to there are 2 problems with the Cardinal system, essentially. He didn't say Cardinal, but the problems with the Cardinal system were it was always gung-ho towards pressing, and there was no plan B if the pressing didn't work, which are 2 very factual things. And so he talked about 2.0 having more balance, a more consistent defense, and maybe pulling back the press a little bit, but then having things balance out in other ways. Is City 2.0 all a lie? Was that all? Was he kind of massaging his own? Was he compromising essentially and saying, yeah, this isn't what I want, but we'll pull things back because this is the coach they found and this is what it's going to look like because it's not going to be everything I want. Like, I'm very confused now about the whole City 2.0 explanation.
Well, and I wonder, and I was just going to ask you about where the buck stops here, because Lutz is the sporting director, was brought in and built the team, but there is a general manager here, Diego Gigliani, and he has who has the final say here on Soccer Matters? Is it Lutz or is it Diego that do you think made this move ultimately?
I think it was. Yeah, I think it was both of them because I think both of their seats are hot. I think the fact that they were so just this worked out. It took forever, but we found our guy, and it happens that fast. Yeah, 100%. They're sweating a little bit. I would say Lutz probably pulled the trigger a little bit quicker because he's been here longer. He has more of a track record, and that's kind of working against him. Because the Carnell hiring wasn't Diego's, and so that there's not that problem that's also on his bill, that's also on Lutz's. So I think Lutz probably kicked things off and said, "Yeah, this just isn't working. We got to go get somebody new." And eventually Diego was like, "Yeah, I'm finally coming along with that one. This isn't working. People are mad."
Yeah, and obviously this ownership has plenty of money. But they probably aren't thrilled with giving a guy a multi-year contract and paying him for a few years to not coach. Carnell still had time left on his contract when he was relieved of his duties last year. At some point, you're going to be paying 3 coaches here at the same time.
Yeah, and that's another problem. People talk about this ownership being cheap. We've seen super cheap ownership groups let bad coaches just stay in a locker room because they didn't want to pay buyouts. We've seen it before, and that's certainly not what happened here. So, take that for what you will.
All right. We want you to know, as St. Louis sports fans, that as we get even deeper into the baseball season, you should be locked into every pitch and every pass and every play. And that's why we've teamed up with DraftKings to bring you Pick 6, the all-new way to play daily fantasy sports. Right now, all new customers who play just $5 get $50 in bonus picks. That's an extra 10 extra picks to keep the action going all week long. It's easy to start, fun to follow, and gives you a whole new way to stay connected to the game. I've got some total bases picks today. I've got Shohei Ohtani against Cleveland to go over 1.5, so to get 2 or more total bases. And I've got Paul Goldschmidt, Goldie, in LA against Kikuchi of the Angels. I've got Goldie to get 2 or more total bases as well. Those are the 2 I have. You can pick as many as you want, up to 6, and you can win big with DraftKings Pick 6. Just download the DraftKings Pick 6 app today and use the code STL Sports when you sign up. Only on DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
One other quick note, it'll be interesting if Leuven comes back and they start winning.
And it won't surprise me. Also, and I made this point yesterday, just throwing it out there. Thomas Totland is also supposed to come back. I honestly think he's an even more important factor because the drop-off between Leuven and their other midfielders is large, but not nearly as stark as the drop-off between Thomas Totland and every other person they have at right wing back.
The Cardinals rallied for a 7-4 win over the Orioles last night at Camden Yards. Good to see the Cardinals get back on the winning track. And Andre Palante allowed an unearned run. The defense has kind of let the Cardinals down here over the last couple of days. He did go 5 2/3, though, 96 pitches. He allowed 3 earned runs on 6 hits, struck out 7, and allowed a home run. And that error allowed the unearned run to score. Bernie had a comment on Twitter after his start with Matz being the winner, Maton getting the hold, and Helsley getting the save to finish things off. Well, the offense scored 4 in the 7th and 8th innings, including 2 different RBI singles from Mason Wynn, a Nolan Arenado solo home run, and then Jordan Walker's RBI triple that scored Nolan Gorman, who had also tripled, back-to-back triples for the young guys. Oh, by the way, Jordan Walker, last 15 days, and you don't maybe watch every single game and you aren't tied into every single pitch. Jordan Walker, last 15 days, is 11 for 32. That's a 344 batting average, 2 doubles, a triple, a homer, an 821 OPS. On May 12th, Jordan Walker was hitting 180. That was May 12th. Now, on May 28th, he's hitting 214.
Yeah, it's been great. You know, we talked about a bad game a few days ago, so I'll happily talk about a good game overall in this arc. 800 OPS in these last 10 games. I feel like he's been attacking the zone more. When he gets a hittable pitch, he's swinging at it, and we already talked about the swing speed. Don't need to mention that anymore. I love what I'm seeing from Jordan Walker, and in fact, I mean, every young player right now just keeps on hitting the ball. Victor Scott's playing well. Mason Wynn has 2 big hits across 2 innings. Obviously, Ivan Herrera. It's just the younger birds keep on killing it.
And it makes you think that as these players have their trajectory continue to rise, I know Ken Rosenthal wrote about his concern about the Cardinals starting pitching because they aren't striking a lot of guys out. Well, Cardinals have allowed the 3rd fewest homers in the National League. They have the best defense in the National League. If these guys stay healthy, maybe we're swinging back to that point where you don't have to have strikeout pitching all the time. You can never go wrong by having strikeout pitching, but maybe if you have a great defense and you keep the ball in the ballpark, you can get enough guys out that you don't need to strike a bunch of opposing hitters out. The other thing it does is allows your pitchers to go deeper into games because by definition, if you aren't striking as many out, you're rather than throwing 4, 5, 6 pitches, 5, 6, 7 pitches per at bat, maybe it's 2, 3, 4 pitches per at bat.
That's the other side of things. And if you have the defense, keep on doing it. If you can keep the ball low, keep on doing it. And that's kind of always been the Cardinals' mantra since as long as I've pretty much been alive, and it's a new generation doing it, and we're seeing the success. Jay Reinegade points out fewest errors in all MLB. Craig Lewis running with the Walker positivity. Walker's up 30 plus points in the last few weeks. You mentioned there, I put it in there, a comment from Bernie, a little side comment from Bernie, because Palante uneven, solid enough to set up the Cardinals to not get blown away. Obviously, they needed the offense to come late, but Bernie sent this out late last night, which was, why give Michael McGreevy a spot in the rotation when you are so blessed to have Andre Palante? So the way I'm going to take this is I'm going to spin this positively. You and Brooke talk a lot about proactive moves from franchises. Should the Cardinals, or will there be a point coming up where you think the Cardinals should make a proactive move and maybe bring up Michael McGreevy, put him in the starting rotation, and then put maybe Palante in a more advantageous for him bullpen role?
Wouldn't break my heart.
Yeah, I didn't think it would. No, I didn't. I certainly didn't think it would cross into that part of the emotions.
No, but I think now with the way things are going, I would wait until I get to that point. I'm still convinced that the Cardinals are not going to go through this whole season without a pitcher getting injured.
That's fair.
So,
yeah.
And you've got that spot. Now maybe Matz takes that spot, but there's multiple people. Ken Rosenthal had an interesting piece at The Athletic about his concerns about the Cardinals' rotation depth. And when you look beyond the 5, you have Matz, you have McGreevy. Quinn Matthews hasn't been scored on in his rehab stints so far. Aside from the Dodgers, who have 1 million starting pitchers, I don't know that there's anybody else that has like 7 or 8 guys that if they lose a pitcher, they're going to be okay. And the Cardinals, one of the great things about not having a true ace is that everybody is somewhat replaceable. I think the Cardinals' best pitcher right now, the most reliable guy, is Matthew Liberatore.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah, he's killing it. I was just thinking about the day. I'm like, man, Sonny Gray's just got to be like, well, you don't need me to be an ace. We got Libby, guys. Don't worry about it. We're a great one too. Mason Windu says Cardinals play 29 games in 30 days starting on June 3rd. I'm speculating we will see a start or two from McGreevy soon. I like that point.
I would think so. Okay. Yeah, only 2 days off in June, and I would be mildly surprised too if we didn't see McGreevy, and especially if they wind up with a doubleheader in the near future. By the way, they might get rained out tonight. Apparently the rain in Baltimore is going to be bad. Both teams have a day off tomorrow. So one of the other horrible things about this ridiculous schedule that baseball has is that you really do, if you have a rain out in an interleague game, you have to find a spot to fit it in, and they would have to do that immediately. And that would leave the Cardinals with 2 days off, I think, in the next 36 or something like that.
Can I put 2 minutes on the clock and have you? I need this every once in a while because it's not something I feel strongly about. So I just need a little reminder. 2 minutes on the clock. Why overall you have a problem with MLB's schedule?
Well, I don't like it for 2 reasons. Number one, it's unfair because it's completely imbalanced. You have like if the Mets and Cardinals are going for a wild card spot, the Mets have to play the Yankees half a dozen times every year. The Cardinals, more years than not, get to play the Royals. So that's 6 games, and normally a wild card spot is going to be determined by less than 6 games. Those are kind of handed to the Cardinals. The other thing is I'm a big proponent of division play, as Matthew knows. I like the division rivalry. I like the reward for being in a division. This would be so easy. What's the most successful league in America? The most successful
NFL.
Sports league is the NFL. And one of the things they do well, even though he's not a huge fan of it, is they have rivalries so that you get to dislike the other franchise.
I love the way the NFL built its schedule. One of the things I hated about them moving to 17 games is it ruined that perfect symmetry of a schedule build.
So this is why if you have division play be valuable, it would be worthwhile for Rob Manfred to implement this. And this is not my idea, by the way. Stolen blatantly from Bob Costas. Okay. So here's what you do. Baseball, you steal from the National Football League. You maintain the divisions that you have, 15 teams in each league. Every team in a division plays 18 games against everybody else in their division. So the Cardinals don't see the Cubs for the first time in July. Cardinals see the Cubs in April or May, and then in the summertime, and then in the fall. So you have 9 games at home, 9 games on the road with each of your division mates. So that is 72 games, okay? 18, 36, 72, okay? So the other 10 teams in your league, you play 3 at home and 3 on the road. That's 60 games. So the Dodgers, the Mets, the Nationals, the Marlins, the Padres, you play 6 against each of those. That gets you up to 132 games.
Yes.
Then you play another division from the American League. You play 6 against a 5-team division. You play 3 at home, 3 on the road against 1 year the Central, 1 year the East, 1 year the West. 30 games. You've got 162. Everybody in your division is playing an identical schedule. You get to have division rivalries. You get to have your disdain and dislike, and everybody in a balanced way is playing an equivalent schedule. Don't worry about me seeing an injured Mike Trout every year. If I can see a Mike Trout every 3rd year, I'm fine with it. And you know what? It also enhances your travel. If your favorite player is Aaron Judge, somebody from St. Louis can go over to Kansas City or go up and watch the White Sox play and see Aaron Judge there. We can see every player in baseball every 3rd year, and we have a cool, balanced schedule. That's what baseball should do. Rob, you're welcome.
I just threw it up there on the screen so everyone now can see how the math plays out.
Yeah. So, and I think it's preposterous that the Cardinals and Cubs are the 2 best teams in the division, and we aren't going to see them until June.
Well, to your point, the MLS actually decided to screw up their schedule the opposite way. St. Louis and City, or Sporting Kansas City and St. Louis City, have played 2 games and are done for the season. 1/3 of the season, 1/3 of the way into the season.
Yeah, and
that's pretty dumb. Isn't
they
it?
play 34.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
It's first 11 games you play your biggest rival twice.
Yeah, no,
first 14 games.
That should not happen. So I think that Bob came up with something brilliant there, and I know that there's people that don't care about division play, and Rob Manfred, unfortunately, is one of them. But I am a big proponent of the rivalry being a part of sports.
I really like that you still had some interleague in there, because I know some people. I know one of the things I know people hate is I know people who despise any kind of interleague play. And again, as somebody whose biggest fandom growing up was the NFL and then became a big NBA fan, that I've always just been like, that seems like a really weird way to do a sport, is to never play the other conference. Right. That seems really odd.
Yeah, and hey, it's star driven, so you should have the opportunity to see Judge every 3rd year, or Bobby Witt. And see, that's another problem. We don't really have a rivalry with the Kansas City Royals. I mean, they're on the schedule, and I don't think New York people really care. If New York people want to go see the Yankees, they can go see them.
The first time I thought about the Kansas City Royals, I was 18 years old.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, just had not even a passing thought about an entire franchise my entire childhood.
If MLB eliminates division, says Mason Windu, the AL and NL Central teams are in trouble. This is very cyclical, and obviously Pittsburgh has been bad for a long time. But Pittsburgh had that run there where, heck, in 2015, the Cardinals won 100, the Cubs won 98, and the Pirates won 97. It was the best division in baseball.
But let's turn to kind of putting out the natural when the cycle goes against you. But if you're the NL West right now, have to play 18 games versus LA, San Diego, San Francisco compared to the NL Central this year. Isn't that the same argument you were making for it's unfair for teams chasing a wild card?
Well, you have to be good. And it's not really unfair when you're really good. So you're just playing in a better division.
You can't solve the NBA does this every year. The NBA has divisions, but it's literally only for very minute scheduling and seeding things. The conference is what matters. And in so much of the NBA, we get into things about, well, this conference is weak, this conference is strong. And it's just, you can't legislate it out of the game. It's always going to exist as long as you draw a line down the middle. And I don't know, maybe we get to the point where travel's so streamlined and ubiquitous that you don't even need conferences. I don't know, man. I
don't think anybody cares. Once we saw the Big Ten do what they did, nobody in the world
we don't really need
sports cares about
anymore,
travel.
do we?
No.
The NBA could really just go all 30 teams.
Very easily.
Yeah, it really could.
Yeah.
I'd still want somebody to build a schedule that manufacture or respects rivalries. Not manufacture, that's a bad way to phrase it. Respects rivalries. But we don't really need conferences as much anymore. I'm going to get radicalized against divisions even harder, and it's going to get really rough for us, Randy. I'm sorry.
No, okay.
This is going to be a tough conversation.
Well, no,
but I get your points on why you're down on the MLB schedule. I agree with you completely. Honestly, that wonderful couple isn't dead yet. Just give it back to them.
Yeah, right.
Just give it back to them.
Give it back to them.
They're still kicking around.
Let me do it. This is not difficult. I just did it for you. So it's clearly not rocket science.
I like this idea from King Bash. What do you think about playing rivals like the Chicago Cubs to open the year, close the year, and on 4th of July?
No doubt about it.
Love that.
You play them in April or May. Here's the way you do it. Okay, so the Cardinals and Cubs play home and home in April and May, but not to open the season because you're already going to sell out opening day. You're the Cardinals, you're the Cubs, you're already going to sell out opening day. So you use those dates in April and May to sell a bunch of Cubs tickets. Then you have a Cardinal trip to Chicago in June, July, or August, and a Chicago trip for Chicagoans to St. Louis in June, July, and August. And then they play a home and home in September, just in case they're both in the race.
Yeah.
That is the first thing that the old people in New Jersey, you pencil in. You put the Cardinals and Cubs, you put the Dodgers and Giants, you put the Yankees and Red Sox, all of the big in-league rivalries. Is that right? Intra-league rivalries.
Nice.
Good job. You put those all together, and that's the foundation of your schedule, and then you build around that. Do we really care when? Now we do see the Pirates in, and maybe you put the Pirates on the 4th of July. You mentioned the 4th of July. You're going to get a good crowd on the 4th of July, so bring in the Pirates or the Reds and sell tickets on that day. Market your sport. By the way, everybody in my schedule plays on Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day too. Just saying. But that's another way to market is to get other teams, sell more tickets for holidays and big dates. You can have the Cubs here on June 22nd. It doesn't matter. They're going to sell out the summertime. So don't put the Cubs here on a holiday weekend.
Yeah, that's a good point. I understand that one. As we look towards the end of this Baltimore series, like you said, it might not end tonight because no one's playing. Potentially a little drama because it's Michaelis versus Maury as Povich takes the field.
Oh,
like a Maury Povich reference?
Yeah, I like that. Okay, good. We were thinking Cade, but okay. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Fair enough.
Okay. But yeah, Michaelis. So
did you ever, you had an odd schedule being a broadcaster.
Uh-huh.
So were you ever home at times for a little Jerry Springer or Maury Povich?
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, because they ran Springer overnight. Like,
Oh, that's fair. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, Brad Thompson went when he was. I don't know if he was in the minors or the majors. They went to a Jerry Springer show one time.
This could be Ben says, "You are not the pitcher." Fantastic.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Ellipse is 150 with the exact same thing. The results are in. You are not the father.
You are not the father.
Fantastic stuff.
That's great. Hey, we want you to know about our friends at the Fenton Bar and Grill. And I went there for lunch yesterday. I had a delicious chicken Caesar salad. It was fantastic. Went and saw my friends Megan and Casey. Stop by today. I don't know if Casey will be there, but you can say hi to all of their wonderful servers there, and you'll have an absolutely delicious meal. Megan will definitely be there. Jamie, Candy, Peyton, and stop by, enjoy their delicious trash wings. They're absolutely tantalizing. There you see the signature golden sauce being poured on to those delicious trash wings. They also have fantastic tots. You see the toaster wrap there. I mentioned the salad. They have great burgers and wraps. It is a sensational place to go after you play golf, maybe for a lunch today, maybe for dinner if you want to go in and watch a Cardinal game or a basketball or hockey game. Huge soccer place too, by the way, talking a lot of soccer here. The Fenton Bar and Grill is a great place to hang out. You'll love the vibe there. It's a bunch of sports fans like you, and everybody knows. It's kind of like Cheers. Everybody knows each other, and you're going to have a great time. Whether it is just to watch a game, hang out, they've got music every Friday and Saturday night. You're going to have a great time at the Fenton Bar and Grill. It's at 701 Rudder Road in Fenton, just 2 minutes away from the soccer park. Say hi to the 2024 Maitre d' of the Year, Chuck. You'll have a great time. It's the Dive with a Vibe. The Fenton Bar and Grill. Tell them Randy sent you. You've been there before, haven't you?
I love the Fenton Bar and Grill. It's partially because they're fantastic, but it's also a big thing, which is I love trash wings. Like, it's my favorite thing in the world because I'm a little baby who can't handle spicy food, but I love the taste of spicy food. And so trash wings are perfect because you get a little bit of that kick of the buffalo. Because I like but by the second fry tamps down the heat a bunch on the buffalo. So you get the buffalo taste without the buffalo kick, but it's still the little kick there. It's just enough to where my mouth's a little bit on fire, but I'm comfortable and still enjoying life. I love trash wings. I love Fenton Bar and Grill.
Fenton Bar and Grill. All right. The college football playoff has been a big topic of conversation, especially this week because of the SEC meetings down in Destin, Florida. I'm really interested to see how this plays out. Okay, we're going to tell you what's going on. Athletic directors, so you know about the proposed playoff that would guarantee the SEC and the Big Ten 4 teams each. And that was going to be with a 14 team. Now there's going to be apparently a 16 team playoff. But here's what's happening. In the SEC, the athletic directors want the guaranteed games, and they want to have a 9-game schedule. They want to have 4 guaranteed SEC members in the playoff, and they want a 9-game schedule. Coaches, who's more powerful here? Coaches want to have the 8-game schedule, and they want just the conference champion, the 5 big conference champions in the in the college football playoff. The coaches otherwise are saying, hey, best teams in. They don't want to have all the guarantees. I'm very interested to see. And by the way, Greg Sankey talked to both groups. He talked to the athletic directors 2 days ago and then the coaches yesterday. Who has more juice in the SEC, the coaches or the athletic directors?
I think the coaches have more juice.
I think it's going to wind up that way too.
And I also think it's also interesting in that story on ESPN was there's also a discrepancy within the coaches, which is Texas A&M and Florida are kind of with the athletic directors on we want those guaranteed berths. But Kirby Smart and Lane Kiffin are both in the listen, we're the SEC. If there's no restrictions, we can put as many teams as possible into the playoff every year.
Just like basketball and and baseball.
And so of course it's Kirby Smart being like, listen, I'm going to be one of the tops. I expect the rest of you to be behind me, taking up more spots in the playoff. But I do think it's stark that there's 2 schools saying, we kind of like that we get these guaranteed spots, but it might eliminate the ability for a 5th or 6th SEC team to get in. But Kirby Smart is saying, listen, let's go full bore here. Another aspect of that is that certain people in the conference do not want to capitulate to the rest of college football and add the 9th conference game. And there's other ones who are fine with it.
Well, that is going to provide TV viewership and ultimately more money. And that's where the athletic directors are coming from. They want the 9th conference game because rather than Mizzou, for example, playing Southeast Missouri State, they'll be playing an SEC team.
And I think there's some coaches who don't want it because they
Exactly.
want to pack in Southeast Missouri State.
You want those blood donors.
But the rest of college football is essentially demanding the SEC add the 9th game because it's kind of, you think about the push-pull of it is, yes, Kirby Smart wants as many SEC teams in as possible, but if the rest of the college football wins out and they have to schedule a 9th game, that will mean less SEC teams get in because the rest of college football, while the SEC team will still be able to say strength of schedule, look at the quality of games when you watch them, everybody else will be able to say, yeah, but look at that win percentage there, champ. And that will give the Big Ten and the other conferences some leeway in the argument to stop a 5th SEC team.
But here's the level of confidence that apparently most of the coaches showed for Greg Sankey. Sankey said yesterday to ESPN, quote, they talked about, I'll call it a 5+11 model, our own ability to earn those berths. He said, at the coaching level, the question is, why wouldn't that be fine? Why wouldn't we do that? We talked about 16 with them, he said. So good conversation, not a destination, but the first time I've had the ability to go really in depth with them. And so I have to believe that Eli Drinkwitz, he's a Kirby Smart guy. Brian Kelly is going to be fine. I can see the coaches being confident. Kiffin, he likes to peacock, right?
If you're Eli Drinkwitz, you want the ability for a 3rd or 4th SEC team to get in. That is literally how you have a path to get in because I'm a Mizzou guy. I'll admit it. My negativity it manifests as reality, I think. And I still don't think that even at their best, that right now they're going to be able to top Georgia.
I agree with you, but Eli Drinkwitz does not.
That's fair. You don't think there's a little bit of the reality creeping in that it helps him for there to be multiple SEC teams because he's probably not going to be the SEC team to get in?
Eli is convinced that last year he was a couple of plays away. Yeah. The A&M, the touchdown called back, and not making a tackle at South Carolina. He thinks he was a couple of plays, literally two plays away from being in the playoff.
That's fair. And you know what? He doesn't think that way, but I will think that way.
Yeah.
The best 16, I think is better for the Tigers. I also think
best 16 or the guarantee of 4.
I think best 16.
Okay.
Because I think that's better. And also I think
Mizzou would be better off if they could be guaranteed to finish in the top 4 in the SEC. I think that would give them a better opportunity.
That's fair. I think that's you're not wrong there. I just think the mindset of Kiffin and Smart it's better if we have more chances to get in because we are the cream of the crop and it'll rise. I respect that mindset from the SEC. I also think that while it might hurt the Tigers in the long run, I do think the 9th conference game is better for college football.
Well, and if they set it up because if you're unaware of this, what has been discussed with a 9-game conference schedule is having 3 rivalry games. One of those for Mizzou, in theory, would be Arkansas. Another one would be Oklahoma. And the third one for Mizzou would be Vanderbilt. That would be fantastic. But then how about Alabama? Alabama's kind of screwed because they would get Tennessee, LSU, and Auburn. That'd be their 3 rivalry games every year. So the level of competition for the rivalry game is going to be a point of contention, I would think, for everybody too.
Yeah, that'll be a big thing. You can't manufacture the rivalries. We kind of figured that out. It was a weird thing. At the same time, though, maybe I'm just in a weird Twitter hole, but like the manufactured rivalry of Arkansas and Missouri worked because
it still worked, yeah.
we do not like each other.
No, it's great.
And so I don't know, maybe manufacturing the rivalry can work. You just keep forcing the schedule.
I don't know that you can really Here's the thing about Bandy.
You can't really manufacture a rivalry with them.
But it's a trip to Nashville.
That's why you just sacrifice them on the altar of Alabama for 10 years.
And I do think because of the old Big 8, Big 12, it's really easy to do Oklahoma, right? If you're 3 and so as a Mizzou grad, if your 3 are Oklahoma, Arkansas and Vanderbilt. How do you feel about that as your 3 rivalry games? Is there anybody that you'd rather have
Oklahoma,
than those
Arkansas,
3?
Oklahoma,
Arkansas, Vandy
Vanderbilt.
every year. Is there another school with Texas?
Yes, I would argue just like crappy quality factors. I mean, yeah, I think Mississippi State would be worse than Oklahoma.
No, I mean just for Mizzou's rivalry, not worse. Just for the games that you get to see every year, and the people that Mizzou teams, schools that Mizzou's fan base could really engage in a rivalry with.
That works. Yeah, that works.
I don't think there's 3 better ones.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I mean,
because Mississippi, we aren't going to get Mississippi State.
Yeah, Tennessee. I think. Yeah, Tennessee or Kentucky could be fun because you get the basketball kind of bleed over, but and like Vanderbilt, you used to get that, but Vanderbilt hasn't been like that annoying team in basketball really since Mizzou got to the SEC. Yeah. I feel like so they haven't had those runs. Yeah, Tennessee, man, I might be biased on that one because I really want to say yes to that one, but I personally do not like Tennessee, and I personally like giving Brooke crap about Tennessee, so I might be biased to this one.
And here's the thing about Tennessee is with them already having Alabama, and they have to have Vandy because they're in the same state. So I have to believe there's another Tennessee rivalry that they would rather have than Missouri.
Yes, that's a good point. I think roll with it, and also they're good teams. That's another thing too. Is we mentioned a couple teams that are just respect to the people who work very hard at Mississippi State and the people who work very hard in the Kentucky football program. Obviously, I can't talk too much crap about Kentucky. They pulled off a couple wins against Mizzou for dumb reasons like punters and stuff like that.
Yep.
But you just they don't have that heft, and the entire point of the L.I. Drinkwitz era, Mizzou is getting in it, is moving up into a different echelon and getting away from those and having rivalries with a Tennessee and Oklahoma. That's that echelon, because you used to just be a doormat for the most part to Oklahoma. You'd nip at their heels every once in a while. You'd bite them in 2007 until you show up in the Alamo Dome and they kick your flipping teeth in. But now you can actually step up to the same plate as them, and that's what Mizzou should be under Eli Drinkwitz. That's what he wants them to be.
One other college football note: coaches are wanting only one transfer portal window to be open. There's obviously 2 now. You've got one during the bowl games in the college football playoff, and then another one right after spring practice. And coaches want one. And there are still people talking about, and I don't understand this, about football players and semesters and timing to get into school. I don't know why this is even a discussion. Because most college football players aren't going to college. They aren't going to school.
Are you about to tell me that you're baffled by the NCAA doing something stupid and inefficiently?
Well, I think it's the power of conferences. I don't think the NCAA really has jurisdiction over this anymore. But what I would think is maybe the day after the college football playoff, open up a 10-day window.
Yeah.
It's simple.
The fact that there's overlapping chunks of the season with the transfer window is insane.
Yeah. And one of the coaches, it might have been Kirby Smart, said, hey, in the NFL, they wait until after the season is over. We're the same.
Yeah. Right. It's a pretty logical way to do things. I don't know why it's insane the way they're doing it right now. In the craziest thing about it is the things in the moment that, like, while they're happening and we all look at each other and go, this is dumb, we should change it. The amount of times that those things never get changed is baffling in this world. Those should be the easiest things to change. When we all look at each other as the things happening in the moment, we go, this is dumb. Why are we doing this right now? Which is all of Twitter and all of sports writers, everything in those 2 weeks is, why are we doing this right now? We could be doing one thing and focusing on that, but why are we doing the dumb thing as well?
Shouldn't a group of people go into a meeting and the first person...
It could have been an email.
Yeah.
It could have been an email.
Yeah. But I think what they need to do is get into a meeting. First person needs to get up and say, hey, Penn State's backup quarterback, Bo Pribula, his team was in the college football playoff, and he had to enter the transfer portal. Otherwise, he wasn't going to be able to find a starting job for 2025. He was going to sit here as the backup to Drew Aller. That should be where it starts, is that there's no way that a kid should be basically forced into entering the transfer portal while his team is playing for the national championship. Start there and then hash it out. Should be simple. Hey, this is going to be a cool weekend because the 2025 STL Sports Show is going to take place at the Doubletree Hotel in Chesterfield Friday through Sunday. It's May 30th through June 1st. There's going to be autograph signings from Grant Fuhr, Hall of Famer, Ryan O'Reilly, Connie Smythe winner, and Roman Berkey, goalie for St. Louis City SC, plus Armand Membo, former Mizzou offensive tackle. Now the Jets is going to be there. Tons of vendors, trading cards, and memorabilia, and a lot of people to sign. All you need to do, and now it's getting late, go to stlsportshow.com to find out the schedule and all of the information. VIP packages and photo ops are available for most athletes. And right now, use this promo code SHOW15, and you can get 15% off tickets for Fuhr, O'Reilly, and Berkey. It's the 2025 STL Sports Show, Friday, May 30th through Sunday, June 1st. That's this Friday through this Sunday at the Doubletree Hotel in Chesterfield, stlsportshow.com. And I believe we will be out there. I think Sports Hub STL is going to be out there doing
That's
stuff.
insane.
And in fact, I think I'm going to be out there doing stuff.
I got to bring up one thing.
Yes.
First of all, this is going to be an incredible moment. One last thing about this Mizzou discussion, because this popped up yesterday. The SEC Network tweeted this out. An anonymous SEC coach, when talking about Bo Pribula, said, Pribula moves like Cam, throws like Burrow, and thinks like Tebow. And I just want to say, that person needs to shut their mouth and never talk again. That's irresponsible to laud that onto a guy like that before a season and then put it out in the public for fans to then look at it and be like, oh, okay, here's my new expectations for our quarterback. I hate the coach who did that.
When you walk into the Mizzou football facility, there's a giant screen. Okay, so you walk in and there's an upper level and there's a giant screen on the right between the lower and upper level. And it's got all of the workout numbers from the Mizzou players during spring ball and during workouts and everything like that. And I mean, Bo Pribula's name is all over this thing, like for the 3-cone drill and for obviously throwing and speed and everything. His name is all over that board that when you walk into the Mizzou football facility. He's apparently very athletically inclined. Now, I don't know if he can throw like Joe Burrow. I don't know about throwing, also, but he is apparently an athlete.
No one moves like Cam. Listen. Yeah. I'm not. There is nothing that has ever hit a football field like college football Cam Newton. He was running over defensive backs and then running away from other ones after he finished running through them. Like he would reaccelerate past defensive backs 40 to 60 pounds lighter than him. College Cam Newton is one of the most incredible things we've ever seen. I'm not saying Bo Pribula isn't an incredible athlete, but no one moves like Cam Newton did at Auburn. That's insane.
Nobody at Auburn?
No. Bo Jackson is a running back. I'm saying as a quarterback. Are these Bo Jackson clips?
Yeah, they are.
I'm not saying as a running back. I'm saying as a quarterback at 6'6", 260 pounds. Bo Jackson ran away from everybody, and he ran over people too. But when a quarterback did it, were you not at least a little surprised? Cool. Okay, that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, for a quarterback.
Moves like Cam is, oh my God. That is one of the most incredible runners of the football we've ever seen in college football. I'm sorry. I just couldn't help it. No, Yo Mama said they forgot to add the humbleness of Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Throw like Burrow too. Like, listen, you can have a live arm. That might be one of the livest arms I've ever seen in college football.
Who do you think put that pressure on Eli? Kiffin?
Yeah, you're right. You know what? That does seem like something Kiffin would plant to ruin you. You're right. That's a really good call. I like that.
Yeah.
That does seem like a Kiffin plant. That's a good call.
All right. A player got ejected from a baseball game for pimping a home run too much. It's really sad that we've reached this point where baseball across the board has become the no fun league. I thought baseball had cracked a barrier when Joey Bats flipped the bat in the playoff game for the Blue Jays a few years ago.
Do you want to see if it maybe was crossing the line? Yeah. Let's watch the clip and see maybe if
that one's ripped to straightaway center. Brown will watch it go.
Get off the top of the wall, so say He's pointing. He's dancing. He's pumping people up.
Oh, boy. The Savannah Bananas.
The shortstop doesn't like it. He has to be held back. The ump is chasing him because he thinks a fight's about to break out. And words are then said.
I have no problem at all with that. He was joyous. You have a problem with this?
I don't have a problem with it, but apparently I'm one of the few people
As excited
who
as you
doesn't
see,
have a problem with this one because people were extremely mad about it. Obviously, the umpires took it to a point where they called it taunting because he was pointing at the bench. He was making motions like this to come out from the bullpen, and they moved that to a taunting position. And at one point, Mercer pulled a player off the field in protest, saying they weren't going to continue the game. Then there were multiple ejections in the moment. The player, the batter was ejected for taunting. Later on in the game, as baseball always happens, there were some shovings during putouts and things like that, and those players got ejected. So yeah, things really kicked off after this moment, but you can still see more. Listen, I love it. I say I'm all for taunting. I love taunting, and I think anyone who reacts to it poorly, my one rule with taunting is do it when you're down 2, and so we don't have the full context here. It does piss me off when a guy only taunts when they take a lead and they just went up 5-1 there, but overall, I love it.
I wonder if there is a taunting rule in the books in baseball or in college baseball. I wonder if there is a vehicle for the umpires, if there was a vehicle for the umpires to throw that guy out for circling the bases that way. I don't know if there is, but if this were Major League Baseball, I'll bet there would be some sort of an appeal filed where they'd say, "Oh no, you can't do that." So come on, it's baseball. It's a game. It's supposed to be fun.
I think there's a lot of people who are talking who do the usual comments in those moments, which is the unwritten rules, baseball's a gentleman's game, so on and so forth. King Bash says it's the 6th inning, not the 9th. You can pimp the homer a little, but you didn't win the game for your team in that situation. That's a fair point. Okay, so you're saying you don't mind the pimping, you mind the situational of it. If it's a game winner, go all out. I can take my bat and I can go like this, I can do whatever I want.
What about when Juan Soto would hit a home run in the 6th inning or something like that?
At the same time, you heard the story about the Marlins. I can't remember which player was talking about how the Marlins had a rookie and he got a big hit, and then his next at bat, he took a pitch and he did the Soto swaggle, and when he came back into the dugout, a bunch of the veteran teammates were like, "You are not Juan Soto. Do not ever let us see you do that again." And so that's pervasive in baseball. I mean, the Marlins also had, I think it was the same player talking about how the veteran player who cut up his cleats when he had a really shiny pair of cleats, and he walked in and they were literally just sliced with scissors, and the veteran was like, "Yeah, deal with it."
Yeah, that's old school. I do like this from Ellipsis 150. Madison Bumgarner used to be such a crybaby anytime anyone would hit a homer off of him, and they wouldn't run fast enough or they would stand and admire it for too long. I used to wish someone would do cartwheels around the bags off him. The Max Muncy, remember saying, "Hey, go fish the ball out of the water." After Muncy hit one into McCovey Cove off of him, and Bumgarner stared at him as Muncy circled the bases, and he said, "Yeah, just go get the ball out of the cove."
Yeah, I couldn't help that video because it brought out the exact kind of baseball fan that I cannot stand, which is the unwritten rule person, the sanctity of the game person, because there's a word in there that I think you're forgetting. You're talking about the sanctity of a game. It's the sanctity of a game. How much sanctity is in a game of shoots and ladders? Let's talk about that, ladies and gentlemen. Come on now.
Yeah, really. That's a very good question. That's something that we'll have to discuss.
A lot of sanctity. If I find out you're cheating in shoots and ladders, I'm coming across the board at you.
Woo.
Listen. I'm not playing with any of that cheating stuff, Randy, all right?
But what about I win a round? Okay, we're playing rounds here.
Okay, obviously.
And I'm pimping it.
Okay, let's say best of 5. Okay. Was that game number 1, game number 2,
game number 1?
And you're pimping game number 1?
Yeah.
You have no respect for the game, Randy Karraker. Unbelievable. You can't pimp game 1. It's best of 5. You got to win 3. Come on.
Okay, so what did you think of Halliburton doing the choke sign?
It was fantastic
in game 1.
Yes,
and sent it to overtime. By the way,
all right, fine. If in a previous generation your father pimped my father in that way and said, "You know what? I beat you on that one," then fine. You can always pull out a generational move. That's what he was doing. Tyler Halliburton was going generational with Reggie Miller. If anytime you can pull a generational multi-year fight, yes, that's all bets are off in that situation. This is now a blood blood feud between the Pacers and the Knicks. You take it to that level. Absolutely.
I think we have moved to a point in baseball where the unwritten rules are out the window. Well, they can't be out the window because they're not written.
Yayo.
So
they kind of just got blown away in the wind.
You know what? The one that got me, I think it was Schilling throwing a one-hitter in San Diego maybe 20 years ago. And he was pitching for the Diamondbacks. And a Padres player, and it's a 2-0 game. 2-0 game like in the 7th inning or 8th inning. And a Padres player lays down a bunt for a hit.
Oh.
To bring the tying run to the plate.
God forbid.
Yeah. And Schilling and his teammates got mad because that's the way they broke up the no-hitter. He's trying to win the game. So you bring the tying run to the plate. Now, if it's 6-0, 7-0, little different. But it was a 2-0 game, and he brought the tying run to the plate by bunting for a hit. If you can do that, why not?
For me, I hate benign things that are taken as shows of massive disrespect. And so for me, it was when Dallas Braden absolutely lost his mind when a player walked across the mound.
Yeah.
Dude, it's a piece of rubber on some dirt.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I get it. It's your temple, but you need to chill out a little bit.
Yeah.
About
Was it
guy.
A-Rod?
I think it might've been A-Rod, which I'm sure maybe added a little insult to injury because no one liked A-Rod, but that was when I was like, okay, this is stupid. He didn't disrespect you. His foot touched a piece of rubber on some dirt. Let's calm down there, Dallas. Also, your name's Dallas.
Is he still broadcasting?
I mean, he's a fun broadcaster because he is kind of crazy. It's fun, but yeah, him flipping out about that was an odd one.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Steve Sachs is actually doing the Athletics now because he's in Sacramento anyway.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Oh, it kind of makes sense. Okay. Well, there's one benefit, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like you can't put Dallas Braden on a broadcast right now. If you're the Oakland
Probably
A's.
not. No.
He's going to say bad things about your ownership.
Yeah.
Every chance he gets.
And you aren't the Oakland A's.
That too. Oh, actually, Brian Ellison says he still does A's games.
Okay, good. Hey, big day on Sunday over at Hot Shots in St. Charles. It's the big 35-year birthday party for Hot Shots, and there's going to be a lot going on there. First of all, the Clydesdales are going to be there. Get your pictures taken with the horses between 2 and 4 p.m. They're more than just horses. They're the Clydesdales, so you got to get out and check them out. Plus, Rizzuto and Ray from 105.7 The Point, The Riz Show, are going to be on hand from 3 to 5 p.m. You're going to have City SC players Celio Pompeo and Thomas Totland on hand with them guest bartending from 4 to 6 p.m. Louis from the Blues, Bushwhacker from the Ambush are going to be there. Plus, you're going to have, this is cool, a taco eating contest hosted by Riz at 4 o'clock. And the grand prize for the winner of the taco eating contest is tacos for a year. That's pretty cool. You're going to have adult carnival games benefiting the Wonderland Camp. You're going to have a retro car show. That's going to be awesome. Again, it's Sunday, June 1st at the original Hot Shots in St. Charles, the biggest party ever. And the car show, by the way, runs from noon to 4, and you can make a $25 donation to Wonderland Camp. All happening on Sunday. Come early, stay late. Let's party like it's 1989. Full details at hotshotsnet.com. Don't miss this blowout celebration. Hot Shots turns 35, and you are invited. Woohoo! Hot Shots in St. Charles, right there on 94.
Randy, partying in 1989 for you. Did you have the carrot cake recipe yet?
Did not. I wonder if Traeger was even in business.
Yeah. So how were you partying in 1989?
I was probably going like a Mississippi mud cake or something like that.
Right, fair enough. That's actually good. That's a good move. I like that. That's a good move.
Yeah. That was a
strong pivot.
Kind of a fun baseball season. Cardinals went up to Chicago, I think Labor Day weekend, and Pedro Guerrero, he was a guy that would pimp a home run now and then, and hit a home run in the Friday game. It was great. I think the Cardinals wound up losing, and they had a bad series against Chicago. I think that was the series where both McGee and Worrell got hurt in the same series. And so Chicago ran away with the division the rest of September. But that was there was a little juice in the rivalry because of, obviously, Ozzie playing against the Cubs for all those years. And the Cubs wound up winning the division that year. But that was fun to watch Pedro go up there and pimp a home run.
I like that. That's pimping home runs against the Chicago Cubs has to be a singular joy of being a Cardinal.
Especially when you hit it completely out of the ballpark.
Yeah,
out on Waveland Avenue.
I imagine that's one of the more underrated parts I don't think about of being a baseball player and playing in the stadiums where you can actually take it out of the stadium. That's so much fun. That's
Yeah.
got to be so much fun.
That window at Houston that McGuire hit the ball out of, is it just, or not Houston, out of Arizona.
Yeah.
He hit the ball through the window when it was open one time in Arizona.
That's
Unbelievable.
insane. That's insane.
McGuire I was telling some, and I get it because they weren't around, but in 1998, the Cardinals would open up the ballpark at like 4 for batting practice and have 20,000 people in the stands just to watch Big Mac take batting practice. And I was talking to Derek Gould about that the other day. The pressure to hit home runs in BP on McGuire was enormous, let alone games.
I wonder have you ever asked him if the fact that he had to lock in so early would that affect how he played? Like,
might have been
when
a
the
good
actual
thing.
game like was going on.
Yeah, we'll have to ask him.
Would you describe McGuire as the way the smooth or violent? Because I think that's like the two classifications of great hitters: smooth or violent. Yeah. Smooth, okay.
Yeah.
Because the ball would just rocket off it.
Even when he was a rookie and he hit the 49 for the A's before there was any hint of PEDs, the ball just flew.
Yeah.
And then once he got bigger, the ball really flew. And those BPs, everything was into the upper deck. I mean, everything was into the upper deck. It was amazing. There were people that would go up to Big Mac land.
I remember being a kid that though you would be at school. It was a big deal if at school you were going to the Cardinals game that night and your parents were taking you to batting practice. Like that was an aspect. You'd brag about that to your friends. Right. That was a lunchroom brag that you were going to get to go see BP and your parents were taking you up to go to watch Big Mac just absolutely hammer him into the top deck. No doubt about it.
Yeah. We'll never see that again either. We were so lucky here because with the advent of PED testing, and they just don't have hitters like that anymore, that nobody else is going to hit 70 home runs or 73.
You mama says McGuire was really smooth with long extension. Yes. And as a child at the time, I can tell you that every single baseball coach in St. Louis hated that long extension because every one of my friends wanted to finish their hits one-handed.
Yep.
And every coach in St. Louis, I'm sure, could probably tell you that they spent the late 90s and early 2000s beating their head against a wall, telling kids to finish with 2 hands on the bat.
Yeah.
Every one of the kids in my class, one hand finish.
And then he's followed up by Albert, and that doesn't help the coaching either.
With the step, having no step.
Yeah.
I thought Albert threw off coaching because of how wide his stance was. Because coaches want you to take a big step to generate power because you can't turn on a ball the way Albert Pujols can. But I'm a kid. I was a kid, and I was like, I don't want to take a step. I want to have a big wide stance. They're like, you can't generate any power like he can.
Apparently, you can.
Yeah, apparently you can. Yeah, not like he can.
No, but I'm intrigued. Look at all the Cardinal hitters right now that take, and I think this is in part because Ryan Ludwig is their minor league hitting instructor, but the big step that Walker takes, the big step that Scott, at the behest of Ryan Ludwig, takes. There's a couple of other guys that with their toe up. It's a really interesting look, but it's working for them.
Yeah. If it works for you, keep on doing it.
Yep. Okay, the Battlehawks have never won 8 games in a season in their history.
Ooh.
And they have a chance to win 8 regular season games against DC on Friday night. It's a Fox game at the nation's capital. Anthony Becht wants badly to win that 8th. By the way, he wants an NFL job, I think, or a college head coaching job.
Can't blame him.
So he's going to play lots of players. He says the plan is to win. If I'm in his situation, though, because I'm playing DC the next week here, I'm not going to show them anything, and I'm not going to play my best guys because I'm worried about them getting hurt.
Yeah, that's some coach speak right there. To your point, there's no... You can talk about wanting it, but that's something, again, we kind of talked about that earlier at the beginning of the show. That's so far down the priority list.
But you think about this though, because yes, it should be. But what Becht says is, hey, you never know when that NFL person is going to grab the tape from. If I'm sitting you in game 10, and we only have 10 games, if I'm sitting you and you miss out on a chance to get seen by an NFL guy, that's on me.
Yeah.
He said, if you want to play and your goal ultimately is to play in the NFL, I want to give them as much of a resume, as much video as I can possibly give them. That's his thought process going into this.
I respect that. I get that. And talk about not losing. I think, there's some coaches who are confident that you listen, the rest, we can work with that. There's some coaches who don't want to lose the momentum, the polish of playing every week, and that routine factors in as well. So yeah, I could see it one or two ways. It wouldn't, maybe you treat it like a preseason game and maybe play a few people kind of like you did this past week, play a few people in the first quarter, the first half, and then pull some bench players in the second?
See, I maybe, but here's the thing. And like I said, he's trying to increase his lot in life too.
Sure.
Going 8-2, going into the playoffs on a roll, winning a championship, then all of a sudden that resume looks pretty good. If a college is looking for you, if an NFL team is looking for you, and you can say, okay, he went 8-2. One of the games he lost his starting quarterback and then went unbeaten after his backup quarterback was playing. There's a lot of positives to be drawn from playing your guys and winning this game this weekend on national TV. Oh, by the way,
the fact that they were so willing to play Brandon Silvers in a game that they were able to control, and the fact that everybody on the other side is also probably not going to be playing their hardest for similar reasons. I just think we'll see a similar move with more of the roster.
Agreed.
First half, second half kind of moves.
And I think they'll we talked about this morning on the TV show with Becht. Is I think that he loves the idea of his. Remember how Kerry Davis said one of his favorite things was just knocking the wind out of people?
Oh, yeah.
And Deerdorf that one time Dan Deerdorf said, the greatest feeling in the world is getting to a fourth quarter. And if you want that defensive lineman to move left, you move him left. If you want him to move right, you move him right. That's where the Battlehawks offensive line was last week against San Antonio.
That's fantastic.
And I think that's what Becht wants to do against DC this weekend. Don't show him anything. Don't show him any of your razzle dazzle or the plays that you're going to try to win with the following week. Just beat him mano a mano and win that game physically.
And the good thing is you can have that same mentality with the defense, which is just base sets, nothing exotic on the blitzes. We're not trying to hide anything. We're playing pretty base cover 3, keep everything in front of us. Don't get beat. Run fits are something we're not going to get really crazy with week to week anyway. So just, play a very simple, whether or not I haven't really watched the defense enough to know whether or not they're playing a 1-gap or a 2-gap scheme. But anyway, fill your run gaps, play a conservative kind of bank, bracket coverage, dome coverage. Don't get beat over the top too often. It's really easy to play a simplified defensive game plan while at the same time having a mentality where it's still fly sideline to sideline, play to the full level, those kind of things.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, the Battlehawks with 8 wins would win the division outright. That's another thing that Becht doesn't want. He doesn't want Jordan Teamo to be able to complain about not having the home game. He says if we win the division outright, and they do, it's still, even though DC lost last week, they win. They'll win the tiebreaker because they beat the Battlehawks twice. So the Battlehawks want to win this game so that Jordan Teamo doesn't complain about not playing a home game either.
I like when coaches are tied into the social media of the world and the conversations that we be having. I like it when they're paying attention. It's funny.
And the Battlehawks do play DC here Sunday, June 8th, the XFL Conference Championship game. It'll be a great time. Tickets available at uflbattlehawks.com, uflbattlehawks.com. And it'd be nice to have a big crowd there that weekend to see the Battlehawks advance to the championship game, which will be the following weekend.
Have we incepted them with the idea of the bob and weave yet?
No, I got to talk to him about it.
We got it. Especially now that we're getting to the playoffs.
Yeah, I will send that text today.
If they take like a big leading, if they like score early on like if Hakeem Butler
77-yard touchdown pass.
Man, you were right in my brain on that one. if they hit like a big play to score the first touchdown in the playoff game there, it has to happen. It has to happen. I will. The place would explode.
Well, you know what'll have to happen before that, though.
What's that?
They got to go to work.
There you go. Got to go to work.
Did you know that you can be sure to catch Battlehawks Hub Weekly right here on Sports Hub STL? Judy Strotter and Luke Slaybaugh doing a great job of covering the Battlehawks here, and they're going to get you ready for all of this championship activity, and then the post games. Sports Hub STL, presented by Battlehawks coverage on Sports Hub STL, presented by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken. It is delicious. And with the new Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken Battlehawks box, you can score up to 30% off tickets to get 4 of their famous breast strips and a side of potato wedges for just $8.99. I've had it, and I can tell you, you will love it. Only at Lee's Famous for Chicken, the Battlehawks box. If you're going to be tailgating before the game on the 8th, stop by Lee's and pick up a bunch of these Battlehawks boxes. They're absolutely delicious, and I think that everybody who gets them will enjoy it, unless you're like a vegetarian and you don't eat chicken.
Yeah, but then you can get the potato wedges.
Right. The potato wedges are
Yeah,
fantastic.
there you go.
You
That's
are a
vegetarian.
big potato wedge devotee.
Love potato wedges.
So
They're underused.
how good was Tyrese Halliburton last night?
God, that was incredible. Unbelievable. Did not expect him to have that kind of game this season. You know, he's just been amazing. Again, we talked about it yesterday.
Yep.
An incredible road to get here for both franchises, and it looks like they're going to be wrapping things up here in game 5 or 6.
And flyover country is going to be the NBA Finals, right? It's going to be OKC and Indiana. And so the coasts are going to be really mad and not pay attention. I don't care. I don't care at all. I think it'll be fun. And I think Halliburton on one side against Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, I think it's going to be a fantastic matchup.
Is that really a thing anymore? Like, does somebody in New Jersey really go, I'm a huge basketball fan, I love the NBA, but because a team that I nominally hate, other than the Knicks, is not in the finals? Like, if another East Coast team makes the finals, the Jersey guy is going to watch it, but because it's the Pacers, who are a legacy franchise, going up against the Thunder, who have been watchable and fun since they came to the NBA, I don't want to watch that though. I don't get this. I don't get this line of thought.
I don't either. But one thing is, you have more people in New York. You have most of the media in New York, and if their team isn't in it, and
their team hasn't been in it in 20 years,
and was close to being in it though, and it's not. You don't have a Michael playing. You don't have a LeBron playing.
You have the MVP playing.
You do
the
have
MVPs in the NBA. It's happened more, but we haven't always gotten MVPs in these runs. That's nice.
We have not, but I'm just saying that you don't have a megastar.
Yeah, I mean, is she not a megastar?
Not yet.
How many megastars are in the? I guess I'll ask.
MVP.
How many megastars are there in the NBA? Steph, LeBron, Luka.
Maybe Durant.
Durant. Probably. Yeah, there's just
not many.
Okay,
but LeBron was in it for 10 straight years.
He was in it for 10 straight years.
And Curry he won 4 championships.
Also helps.
So you've had those guys. And my point here is that media, that everybody that's doing a show out of New York for ESPN, they're not going to be happy that Indiana won that series. And there isn't going to be that national enthusiasm for the NBA Finals that there would be had the Knicks won the series.
And I think that's what I'm confused
about.
And I love
it.
Is that they're an undoubtedly fun team to watch. This isn't like the Detroit Pistons in 2004, who were going to win a slog of a finals and compete in another slog of a finals that they would lose to the Spurs in an absolute slog of a finals. This isn't that. They play a very fun style, up and down. They have a lot of different pieces. Pascal Siakam has already won a championship with the Raptors. He's been a fantastic player on this run. And again, my other point is that it feels weird to knock Indiana when we're talking about the sport of basketball. This is Indiana. This is a legacy. If the Detroit Red Wings we can all acknowledge that in hockey they are a big deal because of the history, then I think we can all acknowledge that with the way that basketball is treated in Indiana, the Pacers are a pretty big deal in the overall landscape of the sport, are they not? Even with being a Midwest squad.
Yeah, they are. But I'm just talking about market size. And
yeah, I get that, but it's just
in the media center of the world.
And I understand the media complaining about this. Why are so many fans out here saying, "Oh, I don't care about that"? Well, I don't get why fans buy into media narratives, because it seems really dumb.
Okay, power rankings of watching these 4 teams, and this is with all due respect to Jalen Brunson and Kat, but the most fun team to watch in the Final Four here, Indiana's number 1, Minnesota's number 2. I would go with OKC number 3, and they're great defensively. If you appreciate defense, they're awesome to watch. And then I would say the Knicks are the 4th most entertaining team in this Final Four.
That's another thing. I'm glad you brought up the defense, because if you want to watch defense play, then you want to watch this Thunder squad. Bottom line, you might be bothered by the fouls on Shea's side. My thing with that is, it's weird to me on that argument that Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is not even averaging his highest amount of free throws per game this season. A few years ago, he averaged 10 free throws per game. This year, he averaged 8. And yet this is the year that he's a foul merchant. This is the year that it's an egregious affront to basketball and we have to stop it and it's ruining the game. Basketball fandom, I think, unfortunately, as opposed to NFL fandom, is a great thing where it exploded. And because of that, we got better coverage.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately for the NBA, it's exploded and it's become the second most popular league. But it's become, the answer to that has been, let's get quick wins from the fan base instead of investing into the mindset. And somebody posted a great clip yesterday of the argument that they were having during the NBA postgame, and then like the average time that Mina Kimes calls into an NFL show. And the NBA show was very surface level. His vibe's bad. I don't think he's a leader. The effort's bad. And then Mina Kimes is here like, well, if you look at the way that the Buffalo has been playing this season, they're running man coverage 34% more than last season. And if you look at Patrick Mahomes, that man coverage is the one thing. His passer rating drops by 34 points. And it's like, yeah, it's a pretty big difference. And it's always, chicken or the egg thing. Is it the NBA? Are they feeding that because that's the quickest way and the only way they're going to get it, and therefore fans roll with it? Or is it fans ask for it and that's what's given to them? I don't really know, but it just confuses me that every time we get to especially in the NBA, a potential mid-market team, and God forbid 2 mid-market teams being the finals matchup, it always turns to this argument. And I understood it when market sizes moved everything. And I just feel like we've gotten to a point where market sizes matter, but their power has undoubtedly been mitigated. Mm-hmm. And so why is it still such a thing is what confuses me.
I don't think it's as much us in flyover country as it is the coasts, the coastal elites.
Yeah, they still just I just won't watch stuff that's happening in the middle of the country.
Yeah,
I think the first time that ever got explained to me is when as a kid, it was being explained to me that Panera Bread wasn't just a local company. There were that Bread Co. was elsewhere, but they had to call it Panera Bread because calling something St. Louis Bread Co. meant that no one on the coast would ever walk into that building. And yet those SOBs can call it California Pizza Kitchen, and we'll keep building those crap holes. Infuriated me from the day I first discovered it, and obviously I still haven't gotten over it.
You sure have not. No. This has been fun.
It's never liked California Pizza Kitchen.
Huh?
I never liked California Pizza
really?
Kitchen. No.
Because it was from California?
No, the pizza wasn't good.
Oh.
Might be because they're from California, but they don't have good pizza.
I always have pasta there.
Probably a smart move.
Yeah, thanks. So people are fired up. So that's okay. Glad you're fired up. Hey, just giving opinions here on the Randy Karraker Show. You can take them or you can leave them.
That's a different show.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it is. It is. Great job, sir.
Thank you, sir. That was a good show.
Matthew and Grant, our producer today, in for Matthew. Do you consider yourself an audio and video engineer today? Yeah. Probably not.
Fair enough.
Hey, we appreciate you being a part of the show, and we will see you tomorrow. Have a happy hump day, and we will see you tomorrow on Friday Eve, everyone. Enjoy the Cardinal game. Cards up 365 after the Cards and Orioles tonight, and we'll have one today, right?
Yes, we will.
We've got a Cards up 365 today here on Sports Hub STL.